After 10 p.m., our phone was never allowed to ring. If it did, we were told to let it ring until it stopped. No one ever explained why. It was just a rule, like locking the doors or turning off the lights. I grew up hearing that sound in the dark, the phone buzzing on the kitchen wall, echoing through the house, while my parents sat completely still, staring at the floor. They never looked at the phone. They never checked the number. They waited every single time. When I was a kid, I thought it was just one of those strange adult things you don't question. But the older I got, the more wrong it felt. The calls only came late, always after 10, never earlier, never during the day. And they didn't stop after one ring. They rang long enough to feel intentional, like whoever was calling knew exactly how quiet the house was. One night, when I was about 16, I asked my mother who kept calling. She didn't answer. My father told me not to ask again. His voice wasn't angry. It was scared. That was the first time I realized the rule wasn't about discipline. It was about fear. A few weeks later, I was home alone. For the first time overnight, my parents had gone out of town and reminded me of the rule before they left. If the phone rings after 10, don't touch it, my mom said. Even if it keeps ringing. I laughed it off. I was too old to be scared of a phone. At 10:17 p.m., it rang. The sound felt louder without anyone else in the house. I watched it from the hallway, mounted on the wall, vibrating slightly with each ring. No caller ID, just a blank screen. I let it ring. It stopped after about a minute. I told myself that was it. At 10:19, it rang again. This time, I noticed something that made my stomach tighten. The ringing pattern was different, slower, like whoever was calling was adjusting, listening. I didn't answer. Then my phone buzzed in my pocket. A text message from an unknown number. It said my name, just my name. No punctuation, no explanation. I felt cold all over. Then the house phone rang again. I made a mistake. I answered it. I didn't say hello. I just listened. At first, there was nothing. Then breathing. Slow, calm breathing, like someone holding the phone close to their mouth. I whispered, "Who is this?" The breathing stopped. A voice spoke, soft and familiar, using my mother's voice. It said my name again and asked why I was home alone. I hung up. I unplugged the phone from the wall. My hands were shaking so badly, I dropped it. The house went silent, too silent. A moment later, my cell phone rang. Same unknown number. I didn't answer. A voicemail appeared instantly, even though the phone never stopped ringing. I listened to it. It was my voice, recorded, whispering, "You weren't supposed to answer." When my parents came home the next morning, they found the house phone plugged back into the wall. None of us touched it. We never spoke about that night, but the rule changed. After that, we didn't just ignore the phone. After 10 p.m., we disconnected it completely, because sometimes, late at night, when everything is quiet, my cell phone still lights up with an unknown number, and it always waits until after 10. The house I moved into already had a phone on the wall when I bought it. Old-fashioned, beige plastic, long curled cord. I didn't even notice it at first. I planned to remove it, but the previous owner asked me not to. He said it still worked and that it was part of the house. I laughed and agreed, thinking it was just an old man being sentimental. The first night I slept there, nothing happened. The second night, at exactly 10:03 p.m., the phone rang. I froze, mostly because I hadn't given the number to anyone. I let it ring until it stopped. The third night, it rang again. Same time, same number of rings. I started checking records. There was no active landline registered to the house. According to the phone company, that line was dead years ago. On the fourth night, I stayed up waiting. The ringing came right on time. I answered without thinking. There was no breathing, no static. Just a voice asking if I was settling in okay. Calm, polite, too familiar. I asked who it was. The voice paused, then said, "You used to answer faster." I hung up. From that night on, the calls became more personal. The voice remembered things I hadn't told anyone, where I grew up, the nickname my sister used when we were kids. Things only someone inside my life should know. Always after 10. Never earlier. I stopped answering, but the phone didn't stop ringing. Sometimes it rang once and stopped, like a test. Sometimes it rang until my ears hurt. One night, I unplugged it and threw it in a drawer. At 10:04, my cell phone rang instead. Unknown number. I answered by accident. The voice sounded disappointed. "Different phone," it said. Same rule. That night, I searched the house. I found old photos left behind in a box in the basement. Family pictures, different families, different decades. In every set, there was a phone on the wall behind them. Same model, same cord, same place. In one photo, someone had written a date on the back, then a time, always after 10 p.m. I moved out 2 days later. The phone is still there. I know because sometimes, after 10, my phone rings once, and when I check the voicemail, there's nothing recorded. Just silence, waiting. My grandmother never owned a cell phone. She hated them. She said phones made it easier for things to find you. When I stayed at her house as a child, there was one rule I remembered clearly. If the phone rang after 10 at night, we didn't answer it. Ever. The phone was mounted on the wall near the hallway, and at night it felt like the loudest thing in the house. My grandmother would unplug it every evening at exactly 9:55 p.m. and place it face down on the counter like it was something dangerous. I once asked her, "Who called so late?" She told me no one called. Not anymore. Years later, after she passed away, I inherited the house. The phone was still there, same spot, same cord. I almost threw it away, but something stopped me. On my first night alone in the house, I forgot about the rule. At 10:11 p.m., the phone rang. I jumped. I stared at it for a long time before answering. I wish I hadn't. The voice on the other end was quiet and shaky, like it was struggling to stay connected. It said my grandmother's name. I told them she was dead. There was a pause. Then the voice said, "She answered for you." The line went dead. I unplugged the phone and didn't sleep. The next morning, I found a notebook in one of her drawers. Inside were dates and times, all after 10 p.m., short notes next to each entry. Didn't answer, rang twice. knew my voice. The last entry was dated the night before she died. It read, "Answered by mistake, Obert." The handwriting shook. I don't live in that house anymore, but every now and then, after 10, my phone lights up with an unknown number. I never answer, because sometimes, just before it stops ringing, I hear breathing on my end.